Everybody, this is the Free Speech Forum. We are going to be giving you a pop-up discussion on our Afghanistan talk. So this is going to be a special broadcast, and yeah, hope you guys like it.
Special report.
Oh, how you guys doing? So I hope you guys are having a good lunch.
What's up, Jer Bear?
What's up? What's up? So I've got John and I've got Brooks here.
Brooks.
So what we're trying to do is we're doing this thing. It's the special report. It's a big piece of news that comes up, and we want to just come and hit on it. So we're gonna do a 30-minute lunch broadcast for you guys. So yeah. We're gonna just jump right into it. So the first thing that we want to be talking about basically is just we're going to touch on a little bit of the facts, and we don't really want to reiterate everything that you guys already know. So in Afghanistan, Trump wanted to pull troops out of this and end this war, and then he signed a treaty with the Taliban, was unable to complete it due to his term ending, and then Biden tried to go through with that as well.
Yeah, didn't he state that all the troops would be gone by May 1st of 2021?
Exactly.
That was Biden. Biden said that.
No, this was Trump.
Yeah,
Trump initially had this plan to pull the troops.
So Trump initially had this plan to pull the troops and end the war. And then when Biden stepped in, he basically was pushing that off, and he wasn't going to pull troops out until I believe it was May 1st, and then have all the troops out by September 11th. And then this is.
So can I say something real quick, guys?
Yeah.
So one point I want to make, just in general, is like we're not here to report the news. That's what kind of like Jerry was saying. We are here to just kind of give the everyman perspective of what's going on.
Exactly.
We've absorbed some comments. We have some perspective on the situation, but this is just the raw, unfiltered truth coming from the guys on the street. And,
exactly.
Our typical, we're gonna be relaxed and have fun, but this is a very interesting, complex, and intense situation here.
Yeah. So that's about all that we're gonna put. You guys have already seen all the news broadcast stuff. We just want to go and talk about it, give our facts and give our opinions and thoughts. And so the first thing that I do want to mention is that this has been a 19 or 20 year long war. I mean, this has been mass bloodshed, mass tears, wives, husbands, children going off to war. Some of them not coming back. Some of them coming back with limbs that are gone. I mean, this is insane, and we're just pulling the plug. And I mean, there's been lives lost, everything. But on top of that, there's been a lot. This has been financially stressful for the United States. And
stressful. What do you mean by that?
We've spent, and I'm going to put a graphic up on the screen. So we've spent $2 trillion.
$2 trillion.
$2 trillion. Now, what you can see here is at the bottom, this is $1 trillion. So we're going to have to multiply this by 2 in order to get the actual, and it's more than this, to get the actual amount of money that we've spent on this war. Yeah, so you can see there $1 million. What some people might not even make $1 million in their entire life. They could fit it in the palm of their hand, in their hand. So I mean, this is just a very.
Right. It's 2 of that trillion.
Gosh, talk about stacks.
Amazing amount of money.
Stacks on stacks on stacks of cash.
War is very expensive.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just a money thing. It's people are going out to battle and they're not coming back. People are losing family members over this.
Right. And we're still dealing with it today.
Exactly.
With PTSD, we've got suicides.
Yeah.
It's still happening.
People
struggling with this.
The mental illness of our veterans is just a situation that needs to be addressed. As somebody who struggles with mental illness myself, I can relate to these guys, and but that is a huge problem of all of our guys that have come back from overseas, and they're not getting the support they deserve. But that's just more collateral damage from this whole situation.
Yeah. So as an American, to me, it just I don't think this is a battle that we ever should have fought. It wasn't our battle to fight. But since we've been doing it for 20 years, to me, it became our battle, and we're pulling out. So there's that. Now we want to introduce a video for our first media segment. So this is going to be at the Kabul airport, and I might be pronouncing that wrong. But these are people frantically,
or something like Kabul.
Kabul. Okay,
Yeah.
so these are people frantically trying to leave the country. So here's the clip. This is a U.S. Air Force plane that's trying to take off at the runway.
C-17 or something. There it is,
Yeah.
C-17.
Yeah, this is a massive jet.
Look at these people just trying to make it.
Wow. And you know,
There goes somebody falling off.
it's hard to tell, you know, perspective of people. Sometimes
That's
you
crazy.
see these Middle Easterners, you know, they're excited. They'd be like shouting and look, yeah. That's just unbelievable.
Yeah, this is sad.
So
Yeah, definitely pray for Afghanistan.
normally, sometimes in these Middle Eastern situations, you'll see the Middle Easterners all out there, but they will be celebrating because the U.S. is leaving. And it's very clear that that is not the case here. I mean,
Yeah.
for what we're seeing, the people at this airport, it's very clear that there's a very solemn, scared feeling, okay?
Right.
Oh yeah.
For the people at the airport.
It's like these people had to know that they weren't going to be able to hang on to that plane at
Yeah.
that speed
But
and live.
I do want to, so I'm very paranoid of propaganda, you know, and what we get to see, because what we get to see in the media is always very directed. They want us, the American people, to see a very specific side of the story and feel a very specific way. So I just think it's important to recognize that, yes, there is a group of people in Afghanistan that is terrified, you know, but I imagine that there are also many people over there who are glad that the U.S. is getting out so they can go back to their, you know, their own way of life.
Yeah, you were just telling me that. I mean, Afghanistan is not just the amount of people that was standing on the runway.
Right.
There's a lot more citizens and a lot more politics involved than just the number of people on the runway. I mean, there were probably thousands of people there.
Yeah.
But Afghanistan is a lot more than a few thousand people.
And many of them might have enjoyed, you know, there's a good chunk that might have enjoyed the American way of life, you know, and the ideas of capitalism and democracy. But I imagine that there are just as many who want to go back to their more traditional lifestyles, you know. Kind of for perspective, what I think about is, you know, what if some organization came into my neighborhood with massive amounts of weapons and says, hey, everybody in this neighborhood, we're going to completely change the way we do things. You know, I want you to start dressing this way and taking these kind of jobs, and here's how you're going to change your social behaviors. And that's basically what we do in these countries. I mean, like, and personally, I don't feel that we have the right to be telling people how to live their lives. And I do understand all the concerns, but for me, just to get this out here real quick, like, I think it's great that the U.S. is leaving. I hate that there's these things, and, you know, it's not going to be a great situation for anybody. And I wouldn't have imagined if Trump was leading this exit that it would have gone that much better. I mean, when you're so integrated to something, at some point you just have to get out. But that's just my opinion.
The difference is that Trump had a plan for exiting Afghanistan, and it was going to be done in stages. And instead, Biden just ripped the Band-Aid off, took all the troops, and you see 600 people got on board that plane to try to be rescued. And there's a pretty amazing picture out there of people on that plane.
Yeah, so I think probably a better plan could have been in place, and I agree to a little extent that this wasn't our war to fight. We never should have fought it. But the thing is, once we started fighting it, I already mentioned this, it kind of became our war. And I mean,
wasn't the initial purpose to get rid of Osama bin Laden, and it's just grown from there, and extreme terrorism, extremists.
Osama bin Laden funded by the CIA. I mean, all the weapons that, you know, it's clear all the weapons. And I'm not trying to be a negative person, but, you know, we see as time goes on, it's like all the weapons that the Taliban's had are funded by the U.S. military. It's our weapons.
Yeah, but based off that video that we saw, there are people that have been dependent essentially on the United States' protection.
True. Yeah.
So
and that's just the powerful thing about that video. There are definitely more than just a couple people that are very worried in Afghanistan, and our heart goes out to them. But
this is also not America. I mean, these people don't have freedoms. You cannot be a Christian there. If you are a Christian, then you're going to be killed by the Taliban. That's why you have people trying to jump on a plane like that.
Yeah,
we don't realize how good we have it.
We do have it. Yeah, we do have it good. And real quick, a point I want to go back to is the idea that there was no plan from Biden. Okay, I have no doubt in my mind that Biden was not the one that's executing this exit strategy.
Of course not.
I believe
is his whole
there's his cabinet,
Secretary
but there's
of
also, I imagine that the military and strategy is heavily involved. Maybe it's not the best exit, but I just like to keep an open mind about these things.
And yeah, that's fine, and I agree with you totally. So I want to make a statement about that video. So I agree. There's probably a large percentage of the citizens that are happy about this and stuff, but that video is showing something that's terrifying.
Without a doubt.
It's terrifying that there are people that are so scared of what's going to happen to them that they're willing to try and cling onto a jet that's going to travel. And I didn't look up the statistics, but I mean, jets travel at upwards of 500 plus miles an hour. That one probably is no different. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's terrifying that some people are going out there and they just want to leave so badly that they want to drop their entire life. They want to leave their home just because the United States is gone. They know that the country that is in there, or the organization that's going to be leading them now, is something that has in the past proven to hang women. Women aren't allowed to leave the house. They're not allowed to go to school. They can't work jobs.
They can't drive.
They can't do anything. And this isn't just about women, but I mean, it's just about the citizens in general. So the fact that people are willing to do that is terrifying. And this is something that, as you mentioned, probably wasn't all. It's not Joe Biden. He didn't wake up and say, "Let me just go rip the Band-Aid off."
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole planning process certainly 100% could have been better. There are ways that you can talk to government officials from like one government official to the next to get things done a little bit hush hush, a little bit quietly, and then he could have ripped the Band-Aid off. But the Afghanistan government could have been a little more prepared for all this. But so I mean, it's a terrifying thing to see, and then to see multiple people literally falling off the jet. I mean that's heartbreaking.
What was the story about the landing gear?
Yeah, and so I suppose whenever that plane landed, they found the landing gear maybe malfunctioned a little bit or something, and there was a dead body, Afghanistan body or Afghani body in the landing gear. So someone was in the landing gear. I mean, it's
not surprising with that number of people running in front of the plane, but
yeah, I mean, they're willing to get run over. They're willing to it's just
cling on to the side of a
plane.
So
real quick, let's talk. I just want to talk about in general Afghanistan. In general, to me, in my mind, I want to naturally lump them in with all of the Middle East. Iran, Iraq. But see, these countries, I mean, like, they become very differently because Afghanistan, it's actually got a border with China, and the people that live there, their culture's, I mean, quite a bit different than the Iraqis and the ones in Iran. There's religious similarities, but this is a very unique culture here.
Yeah, I'm not one to necessarily go and be able to compare and contrast all the different countries, but it definitely is going to be a little bit different in that sense. I don't know. All of this is just like I'm still like trying to process all of this. It's been a day and a half.
It's overwhelming, and the things that I've seen about it are, this is the there's some quote, I think it's actually like V.I. Lenin or something, said that entire decades happen in like a 1 week span, and it seems like this is a very, people are comparing it a lot to like getting out of Vietnam and maybe the biggest change or cultural event in America since like 9/11, because this has been the backdrop of our country for 20 years.
Yeah.
The war on terror, the fueling of the military-industrial complex to...
Yeah, within a week, everything
is completely undone, with the exception of the trillions of dollars,
and the lives lost.
The lives lost on both sides, the psychological damage done to our people,
It's...
And for what? And that's what it
it's
comes
for
down to.
20 years of a still 20 years of still a rough, very, very poor life. Just when we were there, it still wasn't very good.
And so,
and now it's
kind of the idea. It's like, well, do we stay? Or do we pull out? That's what some people, it's like, we've committed so long, why don't we stay? But to me, it's like, well, when you're making a bad move or bad decision, and I'm not the one to say this is a bad move pulling out or not. I think we need to get out, and I think we need to get out under any circumstances. There might be a best way to do it, but it's always hard to pull it off the best way. You just kind of have to do your best,
Yeah. And
it seems like they could have trained them to be self-efficient.
They've been doing it, though. They've been trying that.
Well, they were talking about it last night on Fox News, that you're trying to train soldiers that can't read and write.
Yeah.
They don't know their colors. They don't know their numbers. Yet they're going to do logistics and be able to protect themselves.
And operate a firearm and be able to aim the firearm.
It's just
in
not
the right
that easy.
Be able to go to boot camp and all
Right.
that. I mean, I wouldn't expect...
The Taliban is dangerous, though. I mean, John, you sent us a message, and you could probably fill us in more about what the Taliban said at the palace when they took over the other day and that impact of foreign military cells.
Yeah. So it wasn't exactly what they said, but I saw something. This just kind of blows my mind, and it kind of, and going back to kind of what I was saying is like, this is a tremendous event in U.S. history. It's kind of like the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's like 9/11. I mean, it's huge because this has been us for 20 years, and now it's about to change, and so here's what just blew my mind and made me just like upset, angry, but just almost like hysterical. Like, what a joke. Okay, Qatar, the country Qatar. It looks like I always pronounce it Qatar, Qatar, but it's pronounced Qatar. There was last night they announced that as soon as the Taliban gets back in place in Afghanistan, Qatar's going to let their leadership come back over.
When it's safe. When it's safe to transfer.
When it's safe. Yep. And so
all the Taliban leaders would come from Qatar.
What that's saying is that Qatar has been basically protecting, housing their leaders,
harboring
and
the Taliban.
And knowing this out in the open, Qatar's like, okay, you guys are back in, like go back over there,
and
go back to your country.
This is not something that they just like. They don't just come up with this overnight. This is definitely something that they have known. They have known if they win the war, this is going to happen. They don't just pick a leader overnight. Yep. They don't just pick a country overnight.
So they've been sitting there biding their time, and I would imagine they've been exercising their power, across the border. But here's the thing: is Qatar has probably spent more than any country in U.S. military equipment the last 5 or 10 years.
Foreign military cells. Qatar has sunk so much money, and we have chosen to sell so much equipment to Qatar. And then all of a sudden, Qatar's basically harboring the Taliban. So to some degree, have we just spent the past 5 to 10 years selling our top military equipment to the Taliban? That's a little bit of a reach, but
it's perspective, and
there's history of that.
What the U.S. sells to foreign countries is different than our own stuff. It's similar, but it's different. But that's the reality. Qatar spent a ton of money on U.S. military equipment, and Qatar has also been housing these leaders.
What's scary is, what's the likelihood of it happening? I don't know. The likelihood of Qatar protecting or giving these these weapons or whatever to the Taliban probably is fairly small. Qatar probably wants it for themselves. But the fact of the matter is, they could come up with a deal, and Qatar already has the equipment. They could either give the equipment to them, they could protect them with the equipment. It's probably a reach, like you said, Brooks, but it's a real possibility.
It's
a
something
very
to
real
think about.
possibility.
And you know, we've known and we've seen over the past 20 years all the shady stuff that these American organizations have done with their involvement with organizations like the Taliban, with organizations like ISIS. You know, it's almost like we have been funding the disruption over there. You know, and because the biggest money in America is the military-industrial complex, and they need war to make money. You know, and money talks. I don't care what you are, what your opinions. In the end, money talks.
Money.
So one point I want to hit on, and I want to hear you guys' opinion on this segment real quick. To me, the big, powerful thing that's kind of overwhelming, that kind of makes me take a step back from my stance, is the women. We know how oppressive that culture is, and the Taliban is
just the Islamic
against women.
Culture in general.
Yeah, you know, it's going to – and I still personally think it's none of our business to tell them. However, this is one of the big sticking points, you know. What about the women, you know?
Right.
The women have been we cannot trust the Taliban. The women have been given a promise. They can go to work. They can go to school. They can get all the education they want. They can drive. They can go. They can walk the streets.
The question is, do you believe that, Jerry?
No, I totally don't believe that. Why would I trust them? There's no. I mean, this is gonna sound like a really silly thing, but like, if you've got a child and your child does something you don't want them to do, you lose a little trust in them, and you tell them, "Hey, look, I have to regain your trust." I mean, that's the same thing.
But let's think about the other side of the street real quick and just imagine how many promises the U.S. government has made over there.
I do not. Okay, look, everyone makes promises and goes against them, but all governments, all politicians, they all make promises.
Yeah,
and they're all professional liars.
And really,
and that's what
we're just bringing up things to consider, you know.
But yeah,
and everybody needs to know that the American government is not the American people. America is the people. You know, we are the people. We have a government, but the government operates how it operates, you know. Yeah. We hope that we have the things in place by the Constitution so they operate in our best interest. But in the end, money talks.
Yeah. So, did you, I'm a looker. Do you guys believe the Taliban, the women, or?
Oh no, this is going to be
the way the Quran calls.
This is going to be bad news, at least from my view of society. This is going to be bad news for the women in Afghanistan.
Right. Yeah.
And without a doubt, and that's just what I wanted to touch on. I mean, that's a big sticking point for all this.
I've seen this somewhat firsthand just in America because my wife taught at an Islamic school, and the women there were just totally mistreated compared to what women are in American society. Like, they would go into temple and the women couldn't go in. The women had to stay in the back, and they had to be washed a special way for the men at a certain time, and the women have to be covered all the time.
But at least in America, to some degree, they have a choice.
Right.
You know, maybe
they're choosing that.
Maybe they've been abused psychologically to a point they don't.
Or their family is choosing that religion.
Yeah. So,
but it's, tenfold over there.
Right.
If you it wasn't long ago, if you wanted to just go to school as a woman, then you were, raped because you asked to try to go to school by 10 different guys. That was your
payment.
How you were treated for wanting that. So.
Yeah, and so we have another.
Yeah, we got another media item that we should show. So this is.
Yeah, so this is the Taliban has promised that anyone that was, I guess, working closely with the United States will not suffer. They won't be killed. So I'm gonna go ahead.
This is an ex-soldier, right?
Yeah. So this is gonna just be a minute to pull this one up. Sorry. So we're gonna have to get to the right spot here, but so
there goes Cocaine Mitch right there.
Let's see. This is the right time. All right.
Withdraw all U.S. troops
So this is
from
gonna just,
Afghanistan by
I guess, a couple
9/11.
seconds.
The president today honoring the sacrifice of service members, but many veterans like Kristen Rouse want more done now to evacuate Afghans who helped the U.S.
I have received messages that are effectively goodbye messages. I'm going to die. I received one that said, once if something bad happens to me, I will see you in heaven.
As eager as President Biden is.
Yeah,
That's
so
a powerful video. It's really sad.
and yeah, that's, I mean, that just goes.
But they're in a tough situation because it's like if you help the U.S. troops, then you could be killed just for helping the U.S. troops. And
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad story all around. I mean, the fact of the matter is, even when the U.S. troops were there, they didn't really have many options. I mean, it was help the U.S. troops and have a little bit of a better life, and hope and pray that things get better for you, or don't help the U.S. troops and still, I mean, potentially be killed by the Taliban. I mean, it's just a sad story all around. And now that
so, what do you think the people should do there? Should they try to flee, or have they been trying to flee for years?
Well, so to me, and maybe it gets you guys' opinion as well. To me, this goes right back to the whole women thing. I don't trust the Taliban. They have not proven themselves. They haven't proven their trustworthiness. So I don't trust them. I mean, if let's just say, for instance, I was there and I was helping the U.S., I would be doing absolutely everything I can to get out. And if I can't get out, I would go into hiding. I mean, I wouldn't tell my neighbor. I would just leave. Take my family, take my children, and run.
Right.
I mean,
like those people trying to get on the plane.
I mean, exactly. And I bet a lot of those people are people that have helped the U.S. in some way. I mean, I'm sure.
So I want to make a couple points. Hopefully I remember. I already forgot the second one. But the media, I don't care if it's CNN, Fox News, it is just packed full of propaganda. And propaganda, basically, they're trying to elicit some emotional response from the general public to make them feel a certain way, Right. And
Clickbait.
that's very, she makes some scary points, but we're only seeing the side of the story. We're seeing a very one-sided
that they want us to see
view of this story that the media and our government wants us to see.
That is also very true.
And so
that is very true.
And one other thing is the concern about the women. And it's a very big concern, the women in Afghanistan. But we have so many issues in our own country that we need to address before we start helping the women. I mean,
right.
We have
tremendous money.
We have poverty. Mental illness is such a huge crisis here. Addiction.
Oh,
we are packed full of our own country that $2 trillion, if used appropriately, could have done so much good.
I agree. I mean, I totally agree. But the fact of the matter is, the $2 trillion didn't go into our country. It was not pumped into our country. So that's
the thing is if we spent the $2 trillion in the country, hell, the public might have seen like 100 million.
I mean,
all the corporations would have taken
kind of like the infrastructure deal.
So these are
only so
true.
much goes to infrastructure.
What you're saying is true, but I mean, this is just an if. I mean, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So these are not things that really should be. I wouldn't think.
But we just want people to understand. It's like we have opinions, and this is our style at the Free Speech Forum. We just want to think, throw something out there, think about it, look at it from different perspectives. We're not really trying to make a decision. We want everybody to think for themselves.
Have your own opinion.
But ask questions,
I do have a question to kind of touch back on that last clip that we played. So let's just say, for instance, I was there and I was helping the U.S. You have a couple options. You can flee, and if you can't flee, then what do? You hide, or do you now kiss up to the Taliban?
Fight.
Do you fight, or do you kiss up to the Taliban?
Fight or flight.
They're going to force you to fight.
So if you have the option to fight, you're going to fight, or if you have the option to just go, get on your hands and knees and shine their boots. I mean, and I mean, you have a couple options. Probably none of them are good. I mean, fighting, you know, bullets are going your way, and if you just kiss up to them, they could turn on you whenever they want. I mean,
well, and it's clear what's happening is the Taliban's basically just walking in these cities and taking over without a shot fired. You know,
well,
so they're not fighting back.
Yeah,
I don't know how welcoming they are, you know, but
I just there's I don't know if there's any good options here.
Yeah,
I mean,
Well, I have a story that's somewhat in line with the video we just saw. So at church Sunday, our preacher discussed the situation going on in Afghanistan, and he talked about how all the Christian missionaries have been evacuated, but all the people that are left behind that have been instilled that faith that are Christians they've all been told and warned that they're going to be killed by the Taliban simply for being Christian and not of the Islamic faith. And, you know, I mean, that just is really tough to hear. I mean, and just remind you, this is not America. There's no freedom of religion.
You're not in a country
These are not good
where you
people.
can be, you know, whatever religion you want. You can't spin the wheel and pick what it lands on. I mean,
this is not America, but you know, this is God's world. You know, if you believe in God, then there's something running the big picture here, you know, and these things are happening, and it's beyond our ability to grasp what's happening as a religious, spiritual person, you know, and to me, I just think it's always better to focus on yourself, do what you can locally. But anyways, guys, like, this has been a really wonderful experience. Oh, you got another point, Brooks?
I didn't know if we hit on like where Joe Biden went wrong and what could have been done better. Like, because Jerry had something here with that.
Yeah. So just very, very briefly, do you guys think that Joe Biden did something, or Joe Biden and his, you know, the people that are working directly under him to plan all this? Was there something that went wrong, explicitly went wrong, or was there? Because we don't know if Trump was in here or if Trump was president. We do not know if the exact same outcome would have happened. I mean, it very well could have been, but I mean.
Well, he's almost admitted to it, right? He was on a 2-week vacation and had to show up for a press conference, and now we're sending 6,000 troops back. So that just right there admits he made a mistake in his exit strategy.
Yeah, his exit strategy was exit while on vacation.
But to me, you would do this in stages. Like, you're going to have 6,000 troops, and then you're going to go down to 4,000 troops, and you're going to try to have some stability.
3,000,
but
2,000,
you guys
1,
have said they've been trying to do that for 20 years.
Yeah.
Because I saw a video all the way back to 2009 where the commanders were saying they can support themselves. We're ready to exit.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's 11 years later, 12 years later, we're still there.
Personally, I really don't have an opinion on the Biden thing, but I am very grateful that I'm not the one having to make those decisions and those calls, you know.
Yeah. I agree. I'm not entirely confident that Joe Biden is to blame for this. I think the strategy was executed poorly. I think it could have been executed better, maybe a little better strategy. But yeah, again,
and
it is very complex.
That's what
it's
Jack,
not black and white.
That's what Jack in our YouTube chat said. Basically, I don't think he is necessarily wrong. I just think that the execution was poor. And to me, it seems like that's a general consensus.
I think
it's at least the majority opinion. You know, I think the majority of people in this country want out of Afghanistan.
Probably.
But I think the majority of people also believe it's like, well, maybe we didn't do this the best way.
So you mentioned that he was on vacation. I'm a little confused as to the thought process of pull out of the longest war in U.S. history while you're on vacation. You can't monitor the situation.
Right. He wasn't the only one.
So that
press secretary, she's on vacation.
That is a little.
There was somebody else. There was nobody there to answer questions in the White House.
Yeah, I don't know.
But bad timing.
Yeah, very bad. But yeah, guys, this was fantastic. We didn't ask you to like and subscribe, so if you guys can go and do that now, seriously,
please do that.
Subscribe, because the more subscriptions we get, the more momentum it gets rolling, and the more we can do for you as a free speech forum.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
over 50% of our viewers do not subscribe.
Yeah.
So if we could get you to subscribe, it could really change things.
And one last comment. Thank you so much for participating in our chat, guys. We had a few guys, Pixel Joe, MA and Jack had one more comment. He says, if the Afghanis won't fight for themselves, then why should our guys fight for them?
That's true.
It's powerful, though.
That's a good point. I mean, that's a good point. But we just need to ask these questions.
Right.
Yeah, and to kind of close this out, so this is the first time we've done a special report broadcasting at lunchtime for you guys while you're at lunch on your lunch break. 30 minutes is the plan. If this is something you guys want to see more of, please, we need feedback on this. This is not part of the podcast.
Right.
This will only happen if there's something big that we want to talk about, and we want to get it out there as fast as we can. So we definitely need feedback on this.
I thought that this was done very well, and I think everybody out in the audience needs to understand that these two guys have full-time jobs, so they're taking their lunch break to come up here and talk about this for you. Now they're doing it. They're doing it because they love it. They love America. Yes. They love freedom. They love our push against anti-censorship. And, I mean, I'm just blown away and super impressed by what they put together. I mean,
thank you.
There was a script that was written last night, you know.
Yeah, this script, couple hours.
So we could deliver this to you people. And this script is what helps us have some level of coordination.
More of an agenda, not a script.
Yeah, more of an agenda.
This is definitely not a script.
This was
an agenda.
This agenda was provided by our corporate overlords at Apple and Verizon Media. Right. Not exactly. This is straight out of we the people. And one last point.
It's the truth.
Our heart goes out to all the veterans who sacrificed so much and their families and their lost ones. Like, this is unbelievable. And if anybody deserves an opinion that needs supported, it's you guys. And, and we are here for you guys at the Free Speech Forum. We want to lift you up. We want to facilitate you guys getting your opinion out, and gals. And just thank you so much for what you've done for the country, because, you know, you go out there and your job is to do what the country says, you know, and we're Americans.
Yeah. I mean, all of this is heartbreaking. All of the American lives lost, heartbreaking. The Afghani lives, everything about this is heartbreaking. This is, I mean, we can't go back in time and change anything. If we could, you know, if we could see the future, we probably would have done things differently. So yeah, thank you guys. I mean, for all of you veterans out there, I mean, thank you for your service for sure.
Yeah,
and definitely use the forum. Right in the forum, if you've got any opinions on this. We'd love to hear it.
Come talk with us. Tell us
in the chat.
So tell us why we were wrong.
We're on there every night, so we'll talk back with you. So.
Make fun of us, relax, have fun. And you guys, hey, 6:30 Thursday night. What do we got coming up, Brooks?
Yeah, episode 12.
Episode 12. What are we going to be talking about?
We've got how to build a brand with Bob.
Ooh, that'll be good.
Creative. He's got 30 years experience on how to build a brand, and we're going to kind of dive into the Free Speech Forum, how it was branded.
Yeah, it's like, what does even making a brand mean? We're going to learn about
how it's changing America.
Yep.
And we're going to have Joe back on the podcast. I will not be here this Thursday, but
what a relief.
Oh yeah, and we've also got a college football season preview discussion.
This name and likeness thing that's going on, that's basically turning college football into a semi-pro league.
And we're going to jump into the big games in week 1, so that should be fun.
Woo. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. This has been extremely fun. So we definitely want to see you next Thursday. So see you and have a great rest of your work
See you Thursday.
See you guys.